Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. We will go ahead and move on to the second item, which is to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to the third item of business, which is to approve the consent calendar, which is the minutes of our last meeting and payments of bills.
So moved.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item number 4. Consider the first reading of ordinance 542, regulating the sale of THC products in the city of Staples.
So in your packet, we've got basically the same document as last meeting with the exception of L, which is now, if you go to page 6 of the THC ordinance, proximity to certain places instead of just to schools. So it now reads, no license will be granted to any person for a retail establishment location that is within 500 feet of a private or public school, church, licensed daycare facility, or park which contains play equipment. As measured by the shortest line from the building of the space to be occupied by the licensee to the nearest building wall in the case of a school, church, or licensed daycare facility, or in the case of, if we were at Rotary, we'd be paying a fine right now. I'll start over at the beginning. No, or in the case of a park, the nearest property line of the park. This restriction does not apply to an existing licensee holder or license holder who has been licensed to sell licensed product in that same location prior to the passage of this ordinance. If any non-conforming use is discontinued for 12 consecutive months, any future use of the building premises shall conform to this article. So basically, existing license holders are grandfathered in because they were there before the ordinance changed. If they discontinue that use, like in the case of, the Orton's building or anywhere else, for a period of 12 months, they would not be eligible to apply, or to be granted one, I should say. Anybody can apply. The other item that was brought up was the spouse. I think the suggestion was made, of other siblings. Talking to Joe, you can't really do that, but the end of that paragraph says, or who in the judgment of the council is not the real party or interest or beneficial owner of the business to be operated under the license. So, basically a straw man operator, type of thing. The council would be able to deny that. But those are basically the modifications from what was presented 2 weeks ago on THC.
Motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Blake, second by John. Any discussion on that? No discussion. All those in favor, signify by voting aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We'll go on to the next one then. We'll consider the first reading of ordinance 543, amending City Code Article 3, sale of tobacco and tobacco-related devices.
So at the last meeting, the suggestion was made that we modify our tobacco license with similar language regarding proximity. So if you look at the second page of this, and I'll touch on the first paragraph here in a second, but basically proximity to certain places, it's the same description that we have in the THC. The top paragraph has background checks. BCA has some pretty strict requirements on what needs to be included in an ordinance for them to actually do the background check. So the THC ordinance has this as well, but we're gonna put it into the tobacco one as well, so we have it there. If there's any questions on that, I'll be happy to try to answer.
Entertain another motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mary,
Second.
second by John. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Move on to the next item. Consider scheduling a public hearing on proposed application for community development block grant funding.
So this is the Small Cities Development Program grant that we submitted a preliminary application a while back. We've been invited to submit the full application. One of the steps in that process is to hold a public hearing. And then there'll be I would recommend we do it on April 11th. And there'll also be a resolution or two to go along with the application for the council's consideration at that meeting.
So is the Central Square Technologies a different one than LETG?
We will talk about that on the next item.
Oh, okay, sorry.
One ahead of us.
I am, huh? Sorry.
Scheduling the hearing for that.
Yeah, so we would be looking for a motion to schedule a public hearing for April 11th on that community development block grant funding.
So moved.
Motion by Doug,
Second.
second by John. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to the next item. Consider approval of Resolution 1897 authorizing application for 2023 Sourcewell Impact Community Funding for Governments for transition to Central Square Technologies.
So, Mary, you were asking about what is Central Square?
Yeah,
That's that-
why are we transitioning from LETG to the Central Square?
Yeah, so Central Square is the company that we're gonna be transitioning our record system to.
Okay,
And it owns Zerker Technology, which is what we will be using after the transition.
Just out of curiosity, how come we're transitioning?
LATG is dissolving,
Oh,
and
Explain
we had no choice. We have been on with Morrison County since 10 years or so, and more than that. And they are not gonna maintain the server and stay with LATG. Well, LATG has ended contracts, so Central Square owns LATG and Zerker and different companies for law enforcement technology. And Zerker is what Todd County has, so we're gonna be able to computer aided dispatch and things like that will be upgraded to once we switch to Zerker.
Is Wadena still using that other, are they?
CIS, yeah.
So Sourcewell has a funding program. I think this has taken place of what they used to call the innovation funding, where, as I understand the process, you can correct me, Missy, if I'm wrong in this, you put in an application for the impact funding, they review it just to make sure that it meets the requirements, and then it goes into basically a lottery. You know, so they'll do essentially a random drawing for the projects that are gonna get funded.
So they don't rank them, they just read them and then throw them in the pile?
If they meet the eligibility requirements. And I think they probably went that direction, you know, I imagine they got a fair amount of heat, you know, for the way they did the innovation funding. It's the only thing I can think, so they're gonna just make it, you know, kind of random. The way it was before, you would have a big meeting with, you know, different people, everybody would present their project, and then I think people in that room voted on it, and, you know, I think there was
It was easy to step in there to your project.
election tampering.
Wanted to make sure you were there presenting.
Yeah, exactly. So. But it sounds like we've got an eligible project, we just need to get everything submitted and get in the hopper.
We need a motion for that, right?
So moved.
Is that you, Blake?
Yep.
Motion from Blake,
Second.
second from John. Any further discussion? If there is none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consider approval of gambling permit for Otter Tail Ducks Unlimited for bingo and raffle on May 18th, 2023 at Beck's Burger Company.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Blake. Any further discussion?
How come they're coming to Staples with that?
I'm not quite sure, but
They'd like
there's,
to get a branch started here eventually. There's one in Wadena, Long Prairie.
Yeah, there was one here,
we
but
had one, yeah.
Yeah.
it just rolled.
Yeah.
Till the committee got worn out.
Or they got old.
All right.
I was just curious about why Otter Tail would be here.
Well, that, I asked Mike the other night because I was wondering the same thing, and that's what he said.
All right, no discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Move on to committee reports. Start with Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Parks and Board met on March 14th.
Got your mic on, Lacey? We want it to be recorded.
Parks and Board met on March 14th. Gerald recapped on the referendum. Mike and Eric came and did a walkthrough on March 9th to reassess the budget estimates. The pool doors were installed and they're looking wonderful. It's much brighter in our pool area with the new ones in. Gerald shared that the configuration numbers for the square footage of the storm shelter could get scaled down somewhat, so we're still trying to figure that out with Mike and Eric. The school has agreed to do the small planters uptown again with flowers, and then the downtown revitalization group will do the big planters out on Highway 10. John shared that he contacted the Todd County Parks Board, but had no response yet. So we'll keep trying for that to get somebody on that board. Our park cleanup date is to be determined yet, unless y'all want to go shovel Dower, we can go do that. Lisa Kyer and Mary Noska were at the meeting, and they informed us that our barn quilts for Lincoln and NP Parks were done. They want to do a 50th reveal for the NP one, since it's the 50th barn quilt that they've made. And that's planned for hopefully either July 9th or 16th at Music in the Park, so more of the community can be there for that. And they told us about their interactive barn quilts that they want to do for our small planters downtown, that they're gonna collaborate with the Downtown Revitalization Group on, so that people have more reason to come downtown and interact and find things to do. And then it was moved to adjourn at 5:34.
Questions for Lacey? Thanks, Lacey. Move on to Planning and Zoning Committee.
Planning and zoning met last Tuesday, the 21st of March. Kind of the primary topic of discussion, if you look at the page following the P and Z minutes, we spent a lot of time talking about kind of a proposed preliminary plat option for Outlot A up in Valley View. And had good discussion on that. One of the suggestions that was brought up by the commission was to, over where you see lot 14, there previously had been a lot 15 as well, but to try to hold out an open area up there by the lift station for the potential to take utilities east across that wetland area over to that 60 some acres that the city owns over on 12th Street, kind of north of Mike Gold's house up there. So I asked Jim Kramer to make that revision, which he did. And I think, you know, as we move forward with that, planning and zoning is kind of the first stop in that planning process, so we're including them early on. Just gave some updates to the Planning and Zoning Commission on the Plaza development, Essentia, the Ives manufactured home community, the railroad, some of those projects that we have coming up this summer. So, and we were done at 6:23.
So what of these lots are already built upon?
I'll get it out here. So the lots with the black boundary lines were the initial Valley View plat that was done. So the ones that are probably be easier to say what's not built on at this point, but down along Spruce Drive, lot 19 on the north side of Spruce, and then directly across Spruce, lots 21 and 22 are the ones that are currently available, the single family. Where Vogeland Court is, along the south side and the east end of Vogeland Court, that cul-de-sac, those initially were platted as duplex lots. And what we're proposing to do is to replat those to more traditional single-family lots. And then keep the duplex over on the west side of Valley View Drive.
What's that little, next, if you go around that corner, that cul-de-sac, you go 14, 13, 12, 11, and there's like a little, I don't know, a space there doesn't have a number in it. See that? Right in front of 1, 2, and 3?
Is that 11 here, that run across there?
Right in front of 1, 2, and 3 there on the cul-de-sac.
Right in front of 1, 2, and
Yeah, yeah, by Vogeland Court where that little circle is, right above.
yeah.
The old cul-de-sac?
That one right on the cul-de-sac there.
yeah.
Basically, that would just be held open for some kind of screening and snow removal. Snow storage.
Okay.
And that was, I don't even remember what meeting that was brought up at, you know, because the way it was laid out, if we brought those lots all the way down to the cul-de-sac, the front yard, you know, you'd look out your front window and see somebody else's backyard. So, and then cul-de-sacs are always a problem for snow removal because, you know, you can't get it out of there and you don't want to push it up in somebody's front yard or in their driveway. I think we get complaints now just from the blade sliding snow over. Be really good.
Especially on a winter like this winter, there's probably not enough room there for it this year. Have a mountain.
Yeah. But, you know, as you look at this, if you have any questions or suggestions, let me know. That's nothing cast in stone at this point, so. Jim Kramer might be tired of modifying the drawing, but, you know.
Any other questions?
Just don't put me on the map reading group.
All right,
You'd be afraid to see what you'd get from it.
move on to open forum. Anybody out there? Speak to open forum? We'll move on to city administrators report.
A few things, Lacey talked a little bit about Lisa Kyer and Mary Noska and the Barn Quilt Group. One of I got an email from Lisa, I believe on Friday, wanting to know if they can design a barn quilt for the City Hall Library. And most of the barn quilts that we have by city buildings, most of them are on posts, you know, as opposed to attached to the buildings. But, you know, I don't know if there's any objections to that. I'll have you talk to Lisa. Otherwise, they would work on a design, you know, that we can bring to the council and to the library folks. And I don't know if it's something that they would want to see on kind of the Highway 10 side or more out here in Second Avenue. I was sharing the other day, I was, you know, heading up Park Road, and there was this car that kept stopping in front of the houses in front of me. I couldn't figure out what was going on. You know, I'm kind of going to mom and dad's and trying to kind of inch my way along, and they'd stop. And finally, I pulled around side, and they got the window open and a camera. They're taking pictures of the barn quilts.
Oh, that's what they were doing.
They're on the tour. You saw that they had the big, you know, the barn quilt map out, and so a tourist attraction. Mentioned storm shelter. You know, we've looked at the population numbers out at Dower Lake between campers and people at the beach, and you know, in playing frisbee golf and all that kind of stuff, and worked on those. So we feel that the square footage of the shelter can be decreased in size, and it was, you know, basically determined we don't need, you know, full plumbing and all the rest of that. We can work on other things for restrooms for a facility that we hope isn't used ever. And so we're gonna get that scaled down to where the grant budget covers it. So continue to work with WIDSEF and FEMA on that. I anticipate at our next council meeting, we'll have a purchase agreement for one of the 3 lots up in Valley View for another house. So I've got somebody very interested in that, just don't know what lot yet. So we'll try to get a purchase agreement together for the next meeting, so. And then last item, 202 Wisconsin, that we did the hazardous building hearing on 2 weeks ago. I've been in communication with the property owners and would like the council's nod. We don't know if all 5 will agree. We think we have a shot at it, but basically just get them to sign that property over to us. Similar to what we did with that one on Dakota last year. It's gonna go tax forfeit and eventually, but once it gets into that process, it's hard to get it out, and then we end up paying Todd County. And then we still eat the cost of tearing the structure down, so. I don't know if there's any opinions on that, but otherwise I would have a quitclaim deed drafted up and circulate it.
They just gonna sign it over to us, or we're gonna have to pay them?
Well, 4 out of 5 will. We'll see if we can get 5 out of 5. If not, you know, rather, we need all of them.
Do you anticipate the cost if it goes to Todd County and we have to buy it?
Well, you know, typically what you know, okay, so here would be the sequence of events here. 45 days go by, they don't tear the house down. We go back to court, get the order, go demo it. I'll use just round numbers. I have no idea what the cost would be. $10,000 to remove the structures, fill in the basement, you know, all the rest of that. We would assess that against the property, which is already 3 years delinquent. So It goes into tax forfeiture, has the 1-year redemption period before it would be available to us. Historically, we end up paying the county the back taxes, state fees, penalties, and interest. And basically end up eating the cost of the demo. So this basically gets it into our hands, immediately. We pay for the demo, but we don't end up paying all of another 2 years of penalties and interest on the property.
And we wouldn't have to pay Todd County anything?
Well, the only thing we'd pay Todd County for, if the quitclaim deed is taken down to record, you gotta settle up on the back taxes in order to record the deed. But then, then we own the lot right out of the gate, instead of owning it 3 or 4 years from now.
Has anybody talked to that fifth person, her brother that she was talking about?
I spoke with one of the brothers out in Washington, and he felt confident that they could get him to sign it. So I've not, he won't answer the phone for me.
Or the rest of the family, maybe?
Yeah, well, it could be too, so. But, if everybody's okay with pursuing that, we'll continue down that path.
I think so.
That's all I have, unless there's questions.
Well, there we adjourn.
Second.
Second, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Almost beat you, Rhoda.
Drop in. Talking to you, that's all.